Om Shanti. Welcome to this session of interview with the Raj Yogi. And the topic tonight is the heart of humility. This is in honor of Daddy Prakashmani, who was the second spiritual administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. So we'll start with a reflection as usual. If I look honestly at the activity in my inner world, looking through the window of my thoughts, I can see that a lot of my activity is about seeking value, recognition, attention outside through roles and relationships and possessions. That this really is at the heart of so much of my thinking and behaving. But what if my heart was full? Content. Completely recognizing my own intrinsic value. How might that change my thoughts and activities through the day? This question is at the heart of the spiritual journey. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. And welcome to those who've just joined with us for interview with the Raj Yogi. And again, the topic is the heart of humility. And so this is an honor regarding the second spiritual administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. And I'd like for you to let us know what your experience was being with Daddy Prakashmani, because what's always inspiring when I hear about the original students is their character. You really get to see Raja Yoga in action.
Yes, I think I more observed from a distance. I didn't have a lot of one-on-one interaction with Daddy Ji, but certainly learned a lot from watching her lead and relationships and decision making and just her character, as you said, her nature, and really a remarkable soul. Always a sense of incredible balance. So very entertaining, very engaging, very loving, very attentive, but also very detached, very beyond, very silent, very powerful. And really a deep sense, what seems common in all the original senior brothers and sisters, is that self-respect. So they really, it's fascinating because, you know, when you say humility, for example, which is part of self-respect, so often humility is seen as doormat, obsequious, etc. And we're, you know, behind the scenes, but these souls were really out front, very visible, very involved in so much of the organization, yet still very humble. It's quite a powerful stage to do that, to lead and be so humble. And, you know, I think that's why her heart was very clean, because it was not using anything externally. There was no hidden agendas in her leadership, very transparent, very honest, because she was receiving so much through her spiritual practice, through her self-recognition and relationship with God.
So this word humility, you're mentioning humble, and you're saying that there's this perception of what it means. Are those just inaccurate perceptions of what humility is?
I think we may have inaccurate perceptions of every single virtue, but you know, we have the saying to eat humble pie, which doesn't sound particularly pleasant.
It doesn't sound very dignified.
No, it really sounds quite harsh. So we clearly have very mixed ideas, and humility really is the capacity to put others in front. And that really comes from being so full, and it's an extremely powerful stage, very mature stage. You can start to care, as we say, about the reputation of others, care about the state of others. So it's, you know, again, this is an organization that puts mothers in front, meaning we put those maternal qualities in front, and all of the ones that are free from ego, the tolerance, the humility, the patience, the forgiveness, the honesty, all of these qualities are free from that state of ego. So it's certainly not a weak state or a shameful state. It's actually very powerful and self-respectful.
So the heart, looking at the inside of the heart, one who has humility, you were mentioning about self-respect. Can you share a bit more about self-respect and humility?
The full slogan that was often attributed to Daddy was self-respect and respect for others. And so really the humility is the result of having self-respect, putting others in front. Bowing down is a result of having self-respect. A really strong sense of value. It's quite remarkable, again, how much of our activity during the day has become seeking value from others, really using either people, things, or activities to fill our sense of self-worth. So there's a lot of taking going on when there is not that self-respect. Humility means there is now giving. So when one is filled with the thing that we're actually seeking, self-respect means I have a very full sense, independent, intrinsic, innate, eternal sense of my own value. So I'm no longer taking. So the heart is now able to give. So this is humility.
Is that why then one who isn't capable of taking from others when they're full inside?
Yeah, there's really only thing, it's a bit like a glass. If it's empty, then it's waiting to get filled up. That's quite obvious. But if it's filled to overflowing, it's just flowing all over the place, right? It's giving in such a natural way. This really is what yoga is about.
So really, without that self-respect, you can try to be loving. You can try, I guess, to put others in front, but
Yeah, when we talk about the soul or spiritual, it means it's at the most honest level of vibration, the most honest, that you really can't, you can do things on a superficial level, but you really can't, it demands so much honesty. I really have to be full at that vibrational level to be giving. And if I am doing it on a superficial level, drama will eventually point that out to me. I will be still sensitive, reactive, expecting. So it has to be on a very honest level.
it's interesting you mentioned it's at the level of vibration. Some are sensitive to it, and some may not necessarily be. But I would say that the original students, they can detect things that may, and it's not that they would judge, but they would detect if one's vibration is really real or not. But do you feel that one can develop that as well about oneself so that they're not deceiving themselves?
I think that's definitely what hopefully happens, or is a sign that I'm progressing spiritually, is that my sensitivity increases. And it's not a discriminatory sensitivity, it's a sensitivity to what's going on around me and what's going on inside of me. It's operating on all levels, so I can be more and more honest with myself.
It's so interesting because I don't know if humility is a word that's commonly used in day-to-day language. Because when I first actually met you was when I actually started to learn about what Raja Yoga is, but you had this plate of self-mastery cards, which are different virtues. And I remember, picking a card for the very first time and it said humility. I was like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a beautiful quality. It's the essence of being able to cooperate. It's such a stage of fullness that I can, ego is one that I'm able to let go. I'm able to go to the back. Humility is I'm able to put others in front. So the maturity of that humility is very attractive because it's just so benevolent, so cooperative.
Do you feel that in a sense it's like physical fitness if you don't have, a good strong core and you're trying to do advanced exercises? What has your experience been like in terms of just focusing on the basics of soul consciousness? Have you felt that humility is very natural for yourself?
I think it has to be natural. This is what spirituality is suggesting, so that it's sustainable. Something otherwise, or we use the word sometimes unlimited or unconditional, something otherwise will come along and disturb me. So yes, it needs to be on such a deep level, really stable. This is what yoga with God is about, is enabling these stages to become very stable, nothing interferes, so that it can be natural.
Have you had an experience in your own personal journey where you could feel that very naturally?
This was asked the other day of a senior, and they were saying it's sort of a daily journey. I wouldn't say I've really arrived, but the possibilities become more and more. What might have seemed impossible at the beginning it seems impossible that there's life after ego, if there is this unity, but it starts to become more and more possible as one moves along. I think that idea of it seeming more and more accessible is a sign of progress.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that you felt that within yourself to see such progress.
I think it's, yeah, as I said at first, it's like, wow, this seems like a very high destination. But as one keeps going, it becomes, it seems like it is possible.
Perhaps to just refresh the relationship between self-respect and soul consciousness. I find that when I first came to the study, I couldn't understand the relationship between the two. But as the years go by being the study, it's extremely refreshing to actually feel that there is a connection between the two.
So there is two things that happen. There is identity, or sometimes we can say awareness, but identity, and then value based on identity. So if I am what we call body conscious, placing my identity in basically what is external and temporary, that means that my sense of value is also invested in what is external and temporary. So there's going to be a lot of fluctuation. I don't really respect myself for who I am. The respect, if you will, or sense of value is on things relative to who I am, but not actually me, things that will come and go. Whereas soul consciousness is actually valuing the self, independent of everything else. So this is true self-respect.
I can feel why souls feel that's impossible if they don't understand what soul consciousness is.
In essence, it's really just returning to the self, feeling myself. It's an incredibly simple thing. What makes it challenging is that we have been thinking of ourselves in a physical way for so long. It's a deep habit. But soul consciousness is actually a very simple thing.
Now, I know we've shared this before, but it's such a profound aspect of Raj Yoga that it can really be tricky in terms of experiencing soul consciousness, or it could sort of be a Photoshop experience versus the real thing. And what have you felt for yourself in terms of if it's real or not, in terms of really regaining that self-respect?
I am very interested in the significance of this practice of soul consciousness. So in physicality, when we're trying to activate or cue someone into activating something very subtle that isn't that easy, not quite sure what to do because it's so subtle, we often will give a cue that's a little bit more accessible to activate that subtle thing. We can't directly say, activate your core. So we might say something else like, maybe squeeze your legs together or something. We'll give a cue that's a little bit more accessible. It's not the thing itself, but by doing that cue, you get the thing to activate these. So we're not so much interested in just the cue, we're actually in the significance, what happens as a result. It's a bit indirect. I know it sounds odd. And I think I sometimes feel this way about the way that we are directed into soul consciousness. Consider yourself to be a point of light in the center of the forehead. That's accessible to me. But is it the thing itself? Soul consciousness is, I am not this body. I am not the bodily relationships. I'm not the bodily beliefs. Like that's soul consciousness, is this incredible paradigm shift. So because I could imagine a point of light in the center of the forehead and none of that other stuff is going on. So I got sort of caught up in the cue without the significance, with where was the cue trying to lead me. So that's what I think is really interesting to know if I'm practicing it, because the term that was used this morning, and I find very powerful, is this idea of dying. dying alive. That's soul consciousness. I can say I'm a point of light in the center of the forehead, and did I actually get to dying alive? Or this idea that when one actually leaves the body, then everything connected to the body finishes, is no longer in their awareness, right? So that person was my relative, that's all gone, that's all finished. That's soul consciousness, this very high level of freedom.
It's fascinating that one could actually still have an experience, and yet there isn't a shift in one's awareness.
I think with the power of the mind, our mind's so powerful, our imagination as well is so powerful that I can think my way into some very exciting and pleasing places, but is it the place? Is it the destination?
Is this a sign then of balance, that there will be both? There will be an experience, but there would actually be significance, because it seems like souls fall on one end or the other, and I'm having an experience, but there's no shift in awareness, or I become very intellectual. It sounds like having some sort of significant aha moment, but I'm not really experiencing something.
For me, I can't separate the two. If it's accurate, they actually go together.
But if it's not,
so yeah.
It's interesting that it feels like there could be just a lot of old ideas, and it shouldn't be a hit and miss experience.
I think that's why someone like Daddy G or the other seniors is very helpful for us, because they were accurately practicing soul consciousness. We never actually think of them as practicing soul consciousness, but they did. What we see is the impact of accurately practicing soul consciousness, which is, of course, extremely loving, very stable stage, extremely powerful, very, very pure. So we get to see the significance or impact of accurately practicing soul consciousness, and that's very valuable.
So back to this aspect of when one has self-respect, they can afford to bow down to others. What's really happening inside, do you feel? Because it feels like, and that's just an example, but it kind of feels like why we have these ideas of dormant.
I think that, perhaps we've gotten to the point where the only option or way of life we know of is getting that recognition from others. And so if that recognition isn't there, then we think there's nothing. But if I am completely liberated from seeking recognition, there's nothing to prove, there's no validation needed. I'm so free, and there's just no interest. So to others, it might appear a certain way, but actually it's incredible freedom.
It's interesting. I remember hearing just experiences about her, and when she would just say hello to everyone. It doesn't matter if they don't say hello to her or not. And it seems like a very small thing, but our ideas, I guess, of being kind to others may not necessarily be, again, accurate if I'm subtly expecting things from others.
Yes, it's always going to come back to the same thing. Am I full? If I'm full, then I'm completely free.
Wow. I think if anything, it inspires us to have an experience of soul consciousness.
Perhaps the first step in moving into soul consciousness is that I believe I am a soul. Even if I'm not feeling it, or living that way, but I do believe I am a soul. That I am separate from this body. if that complete belief is there, then I will arrive eventually at the experience. So that is the first question I ask myself. Do I truly believe the faith that I am a soul? Somehow asking myself that question moves me closer to the experience. I become aware that I am reflecting in such an honest and deep way inside. So many other thoughts fall away. I am bringing in front of myself the most important question I can never ask myself. Do I believe I am a soul? And if the answer is yes, then I will methodically, consistently, frequently go inside as if stepping away from the world and look completely at the self alone. Even the body will start to feel a little distant. Just me, the thinker. The energy of the self starting to draw together into that single point of reflection. Me, the thinker. Anything that I practice frequently, honestly, consistently, I do eventually master. And there is nothing more important to practice than understanding who I am. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you to those who have joined with us this evening on Instagram and YouTube. Just a warm reminder that the next Raja Yoga Foundations in English will be starting at the beginning of September. So it's the 4 Wednesdays of September, and I believe it's 6:30 to 6:30 to 8 p.m. And registration is required online and on site. There is also the Hindi Raja Yoga full course, and I believe that is 2 weekends that we're looking at, the 10th and the 11th, 17th and the 18th. Again, that will be online as well as on site. So you're welcome to visit the center's website. Ultimately, the practicing, the experiencing is the most important thing. We also have the drop-in sessions. These are the evening meditations. That's on the Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, 6:30 to 7:30. But all of these details are on the website. So thank you for joining with us. Om Shanti.